7 rifles cracked the silence over Miramar National Cemetery, a 21-gun salute for a Marine who had lost both his family and his legs. But one civilian stood at the grave, a black woman, mid-40s, in a simple black coat, hands at her sides, a single tear sliding down her cheek. The Marines folded the flag from his casket with white-gloved precision.
On behalf of the President of the United States Marine Corps, and a grateful nation, please accept this flag as a symbol of our appreciation for your loved one's honorable and faithful service.
The folded flag was placed in her hands. She was not his wife, not his sister. She was his designated next of kin. Who was she? A single mom, a rideshare driver, and for 6 years, every Wednesday, she drove him home for free. To understand how she earned this, you have to go back 6 years to a November afternoon in San Diego, when her aging minivan pulled up to the clinic and she met a 31-year-old Marine who had no one left in the world. Karen Morris parked her worn minivan and walked into the physical therapy center. The dispatcher had given her a name, Joshua Hayes, a 31-year-old Marine with no family listed. She found him in the waiting area, a gaunt man in a wheelchair, both legs gone above the knee, wearing a faded Marine Corps t-shirt.
Joshua, I am Karen, your driver.
Yeah. Let's go.
He wheeled himself outside to the minivan, refusing her help with a hard stare. She didn't try again.
He doesn't want pity. Just get him there.
The drive passed in silence, broken only by the rattle of the old engine. When they reached his apartment, he pulled out his wallet, a worn leather thing, almost empty. He counted out $7, all he had.
Here. It's not much, but take it.
Put that away. You don't have to pay me. Take my number. Call me directly next Wednesday. No app, no charge. Just be ready at 2.
3 days later, as Karen sat in her minivan wiping down the dash after a long shift, her phone buzzed with an unknown number.
Hello.
It's Joshua. You said to call. I was wondering if the offer still stands.
Of course. Tomorrow at 2. I'll be there.
The next day, at exactly 2 o'clock, her minivan rolled up to the clinic. Joshua wheeled out, his face unreadable, but his shoulders a little less stiff.
The VA has a free shuttle for vets. You know, they could have picked you up today.
I don't need a bus full of people staring at the guy with no legs. I'd rather pay a stranger.
Then consider this stranger off the clock. I am not charging you, ever. You call me, I'll show up.
He didn't argue, and the next Wednesday, at 8 p.m., her minivan was waiting outside his apartment building. A quiet routine formed, no chatter, just the highway and the hum of an old engine. Every Wednesday for the next 6 years, months passed. The minivan's odometer climbed, but inside Karen's small apartment, another mile was being measured. The growing distance between her and her 16-year-old daughter, Maya.
You missed my parent-teacher conference again. I had to sit there alone while they talked about my grades, like I wasn't even in the room.
Baby, I am sorry. I had to drive Joshua to his appointment. He has no one else, no family, nobody.
He has no one else? What about me? I have no one else. You are my mom, and you are never here. You are always with him.
She's right. I've been so busy saving a man who pushed everyone away that I'm losing the one who needs me most.
The words hung in the room like a verdict. Karen had no defense. Every Wednesday, she chose a stranger, and her daughter was keeping score.
You love some random veteran more than you love your own flesh and blood. Just admit it.
That's not true, Maya. I love you more than anything. I am trying to do right by someone who has nobody. I don't know how to stop.
Maya didn't answer. She just turned, walked down the hall, and closed her bedroom door with a quiet click that felt louder than any slam.
What would Mama have done? She always said, show up for people. But which people? How do you show up for everyone when there's only one you?
By year 2, Karen's kitchen table held more late notices than dinner plates.
Rent's late. Maya needs a laptop for school. and the transmission's whining like it's about to quit.
While she counted pennies, Joshua sat in a cold exam room, watching a doctor's face turn careful. That afternoon, she met him at the clinic door. His skin was the color of week-old ash.
You look awful. You sure you're up for the ride?
I'm fine. Therapy just kicked my tail today.
10 minutes into the drive, his head dipped and his hand shot out to the dashboard, knuckles white.
Joshua, what's wrong? Talk to me.
I said I'm fine. It's just low blood sugar. Don't make a scene.
Something's wrong, Lord. He's hiding it, and I'm hiding from my own bills. Just show me the next step.
2 days later, a neighbor's 911 call sent Joshua to the VA hospital. Karen arrived still wearing her work scrubs, her heart in her throat.
Joshua, you almost didn't make it. Why didn't you call me?
Because you've got enough on your plate. I'm not your problem.
A nurse pulled Karen aside and showed her the intake form. The line for emergency contact was blank.
No one. Not a single name. If he had died today, no one would have been called. Joshua, I'm putting my name on that line. You need someone.
Karen, you don't owe me a thing. I won't let you sign up for more trouble.
I'm not asking permission. I'm telling you, you're not alone anymore.
He stared at the ceiling for a long moment. Then, almost inaudibly, he nodded. She wrote her name and number in the box. It was a small box on a cheap form, but it was the first family Joshua had claimed in 8 years. The same week, Joshua was discharged. Maya's school called a mandatory meeting. Karen never showed.
They told me I might not graduate, Mom. They called your name 3 times in that room, and you weren't there.
Maya, I was at the hospital. The nurse called. Joshua was fading. I couldn't leave him.
You couldn't leave him, but you can leave me every single day of my life.
She's failing her classes because of me. I'm losing my own daughter, and I can't even blame her.
You keep saying he has no family. Well, he has you. I'm the one who doesn't have a mother anymore.
Don't say that, please. I'm trying to hold both of you, but I'm only one person.
Maya didn't soften. She grabbed her backpack, walked to the front door, and paused with her hand on the knob.
I'll be at Dad's this weekend. Maybe you can keep your promise to someone for once.
She's leaving, and I can't stop her. How do I choose between saving a stranger and saving my own child's faith in me?
The following Wednesday, Karen pulled into the clinic lot, still arguing on her phone with Maya's father about missed child support. She didn't see Joshua watching from the passenger seat. The window cracked. He heard every word. The plea for extra cash, the confession that she'd been driving him for free, the shaky apology to her ex.
You've been paying for my rides with money you don't have?
It's not your concern. I told you. I don't want your money.
Then I'll find another ride. You got a kid who needs you. I won't be the reason she fails.
You can't fire me, Joshua. I made a promise. I'll be here next Wednesday.
She got back in the van, and the drive was the quietest one yet. But that evening, in his apartment, Joshua wheeled to his desk and pulled out a blank legal pad. He called a lawyer, an old Marine buddy who practiced law now. He'd saved up for this call.
I need to make someone my next of kin. Not family by blood, but the person who showed up when nobody else did.
The lawyer spelled out the form line by line. When Joshua hung up, he began writing a letter he prayed would never be delivered. 3 days later, Joshua sat across from an old JAG-turned-civilian lawyer, pen hovering over the most important document he would ever sign. It was an honorary next of kin designation. In the blank marked designee's full name, he had already printed Karen Morris.
She's my emergency contact. Might as well make her my last contact, too.
On a separate sheet, he wrote, "If you are reading this, I didn't make it. You showed up every Wednesday for 6 years. That means more than any blood relation." He sealed the envelope and handed it to the lawyer. "Make sure she gets this." Not before. The Marine Corps processed the filing without fanfare. In their records, Karen Morris was now the person to receive the flag.
Need to stretch this tank one more day. Maya's got a math test, and I promised her I'd be there for dinner.
Miles away, Karen was filling her minivan, counting spare change for gas. She had no idea she'd just been given a family she never asked for. That Wednesday, at 2 p.m., she pulled up to his apartment, and he wheeled out, same as every week. He gave her a small, tight nod. She didn't notice the envelope tucked inside his backpack. The secret was sealed. It would wait for the day his heart finally gave out, a day that was coming sooner than anyone knew. In the years that followed, the minivan's odometer passed 300,000 miles. The driver's seat frayed, but Karen never missed a Wednesday. Maya stopped fighting. She had watched her mother pour herself out for a stranger and learned that some sacrifices don't need permission. At the VA clinic, a cardiologist studied Joshua's latest scan and chose his words carefully. Joshua didn't need the details. He knew his heart was failing. He just didn't tell Karen. Why add more weight to a woman already sinking? On what would be their last Wednesday together, the air in the minivan was comfortable, filled with 6 years of unspoken trust.
Thanks for everything, Karen. I mean it.
You don't have to thank me. Same time next week?
Tell her. No, don't. Let her have one more ordinary day.
He forced a nod. Yeah, see you then? The words tasted like a lie he'd already decided to tell. Karen waved as she pulled away. She didn't know she had just driven him home for the last time. The next Wednesday, at 2 p.m., Karen pulled up to Joshua's apartment. His blinds were still drawn.
Joshua, I'm here. You okay in there?
No answer. A cold finger of dread traced her spine. She dialed his number, then 911, her breath shallow. The paramedics broke the lock. Inside, they found him in his wheelchair, head tilted, a small photo of Karen's car on his desk.
Number, not him. We were just.
An officer stepped out and told her she couldn't enter. She wasn't next of kin. She wasn't family.
I'm his emergency contact. I drove him every week for 6 years. You have to let me.
Procedure, he said, and closed the door. Her name on a form meant nothing in the system that had swallowed him. She stumbled back to her minivan, the only space that had ever held them together. The dashboard clock read 2:47 p.m.
I showed up. That was the only promise I had. Now there's no one to show up for.
4 days after Joshua's death, a registered letter landed on Karen's doorstep. The return address belonged to a law firm she didn't recognize. She tore it open, her hands still raw from gripping the steering wheel for hours. The letter was typed on heavy paper, with a Marine Corps seal. Dear Miss Morris, on behalf of the United States Marine Corps, you are invited to attend the funeral of Sergeant Joshua Hayes at Miramar National Cemetery as his designated honorary next of kin. The room tilted. 6 years of Wednesday rides, of refusing tips, of losing sleep, and Joshua had quietly, legally, claimed her as his own.
He didn't just need a driver. He needed someone to bury him, and he picked me.
The letter explained he'd filed the paperwork 3 years earlier. The Marine Corps had recognized it. She was to stand on the family side of the grave.
Family. I was just the driver. How did I become his everything?
Her legs gave out. She slid down the kitchen cabinet and sat on the cold tile, the same floor she'd paced 1,000 nights, worrying about bills and Wednesdays.
You said thanks last week. You knew it was the last time, and you still didn't tell me. I'll be there. I'll stand where you put me. One last Wednesday, Joshua.
That night, Karen placed the letter on the kitchen table between her and Maya, a worn envelope that held a dead man's last command.
Why would you go to his funeral? After all those Wednesdays he stole from us.
Read the letter, baby. Please. You'll see what he really was to me.
Maya's eyes scanned the page. When she reached the words, honorary next of kin, her fingers curled into a fist, then slowly unclenched.
He made you his family, legally. Why? Why would a stranger do that?
Because I showed up. Every single Wednesday. That was enough for him.
I spent years hating him for taking you away. And he was busy writing your name into his last breath. You have to go, Mom. You are his family now. Don't let anyone tell you you don't belong.
She finally sees him. Lord, I almost lost my daughter, and tonight you gave her back.
Before dawn, Karen pressed her only black coat. She laid it over the passenger seat and whispered to the empty van, "One more, Wednesday, Joshua." At the cemetery gate, a tall Marine in dress blues stepped forward. His white gloves were spotless, his voice calm.
You must be Karen Morris. I am Sergeant Cole. The Marines will render full honors, but you are the family today.
I was his driver, sir.
No, ma'am. According to his file, you are his next of kin. That makes you his family.
He handed her a program. Below his name, in bold print, Honorary Next of Kin, Karen Morris.
At the end of the ceremony, you will receive the flag. It is the highest honor a Marine gives. Do you understand?
The flag. For me. A stranger who drove a minivan. I understand.
Her voice was a whisper, but her spine straightened. The man who had no family had chosen her, and now the Corps would bear witness.
Don't fall apart. Not yet. He trusted you with this.
The casket sat above the San Diego dirt, an honor guard of 7 Marines flanking the grave. Karen stood alone on the family side, her only companions a folded chair and a cold wind. A command rang out. 7 rifle barrels tipped toward the sky. The world held its breath. The first volley cracked, the silence like a door slamming shut. Karen's shoulders jerked, but her feet didn't move. The second volley pushed the echo deeper into the grass. She felt it in her chest, a punch of grief and finality.
7 guns, 21 shots. Each one for every Wednesday I thought nobody was counting.
The final volley faded into a silence heavier than the noise. The smoke curled and lifted over the headstones. Then, from somewhere behind her, a single bugle began to play. The notes of taps fell like stones into water.
All quiet on the Western Front. That's what he used to say when the car got too silent. Now it's really quiet.
The last note hung in the air, and Karen let the tears come. Not sobs, just a steady stream, hot and quiet down her dark cheeks.
He gave me this. I won't let it drop. Not today.
The Marines lifted the flag from his casket, white-gloved hands moving in a silent ritual, fold by fold. The stars vanished until only a blue triangle remained.
That flag flew over his outpost. Now it's coming home with me.
Sergeant Cole took it, knelt before her. The space between them grew heavy.
On behalf of the President of the United States Marine Corps, and a grateful nation, please accept this flag as a symbol of our appreciation for your loved one's honorable and faithful service.
Karen's hands extended. She pressed the flag against her heart. A tear slid down her cheek. She didn't wipe it.
He chose me. Out of everyone, he chose a stranger with a beat-up minivan.
The ceremony ended. But as Karen turned, a figure in a dark suit waited at the edge of the graveside. Joshua's final words hadn't been spoken yet. The man in the dark suit approached her, a leather folder in his hands. He asked her to follow him to a quiet corner, where he laid out the last will of Sergeant Joshua Hayes. The will left behind a 3-bedroom house in Oceanside, fully paid and full survivor pension benefits. All to Karen Morris.
A house? I can't accept that. I never charged him a dime.
But then he handed her a folded piece of paper, clipped to the will. On it, Joshua had written, "I know you'll say you don't deserve this. You did the one thing no one else could. You showed up. Keep your minivan. Drive someone else who needs you."
He even knew I'd refuse. He planned it all.
Karen pressed the note to her heart alongside the flag.
I accept.
She didn't know yet what that would mean, but she knew she couldn't let his last gift become a rejection. 1 week later, Karen and Maya drove the old minivan up the coast to Oceanside. A set of keys that had belonged to a Marine now rested in her palm.
This house was his. Now it's ours. I still can't believe it.
Inside, The place smelled of pine and old books. On a small desk in the corner, she found a box, medals, a folded uniform, and a note in his handwriting. She opened the note. 4 words, written in the careful script of a man who knew he was leaving. "Thank you for showing up."
He left me his whole life, and all he said was thank you.
She framed it and set it on the mantel, next to the folded flag from his memorial.
He really loved you, Mom. Not like family, like something bigger, like you were his whole world.
He was mine too, baby. That's why we're here.
That evening, as the sun sank over the Pacific, the minivan sat in the driveway. It had never looked more at home.
This is where we start again. Not for us. For him.
The next Wednesday, Karen stuck a decal on the minivan's side door. Auntie Kay's vet rides with a small red heart. At 2 p.m., she pulled up to the VA clinic. A young Army veteran with prosthetic legs hesitated by the curb.
You, Alex? I am Auntie Kay. Hop in. No charge. No app. Just a promise you'll heal.
Alex smiled for the first time in weeks. The minivan's old engine hummed as it climbed the highway, carrying a new story. That Saturday, Maya sat behind a folding table at the VA center, handing out flyers for a veteran's job fair. She was done being angry.
My mom started this. You know Auntie Kay? She's the reason I am here.
Word spread. At the base, when Marines saw the sticker, they'd tap the hood and say, "There's Auntie Kay." She never missed a Wednesday. The van now carried a new passenger almost every week. Vets who couldn't drive, couldn't pay, couldn't face a crowded shuttle.
This is what he meant. Drive someone else. It's the only way I can keep him with me.
And every time she put the key in the ignition, she whispered the same 4 words. "I showed up, Joshua." Exactly 1 year after Joshua's death, Karen drove the old minivan through Miramar's gates, a small bouquet resting on the passenger seat. She followed the same path as on his funeral day, but this time her steps were lighter, steadier. Kneeling at his headstone, she traced his name with her finger and began to speak, as if he were still in the passenger seat.
Hey, Joshua. It's been a year. I want you to know I did what you asked. That worn-out key you never let me use is still turning the engine, but I think it belongs with you now.
She placed the old minivan key on the marble. Beside the bouquet, it looked like it had always been there.
You showed up, so I showed up for you.
She closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the wind. When she opened them, a small smile crossed her face. Behind her, the minivan waited. Tomorrow was Wednesday, and Alex would be at the clinic at 2 p.m.
See you next Wednesday, Joshua.
The next Wednesday, Karen wasn't driving Joshua. She was driving a young female veteran with an arm in a sling. The young woman spotted the sticker on the door. Auntie Kay's vet rides with a small heart. Before she could ask, Karen answered, her voice steady but soft.
That sticker. It's for the Marine who started all this. 6 years, every Wednesday, I drove him to therapy. He had no family. So I became his. When he died, he named me his next of kin. He left me this van and a note that said, "Drive someone else." So here I am, still showing up.
The young woman stared at the sticker, then at Karen. "You are just like him."
That's the best compliment I could ever get.
A single tear traced her cheek as she put the minivan in gear and pulled out of the clinic lot. In the passenger seat, another wounded veteran was on her way to healing. And somewhere, Joshua was riding shotgun too. The old minivan rolled onto the Pacific Coast Highway, the Auntie Kay sticker catching the last light of the day inside. Karen's hands rested on the wheel, the same hands that had once refused $7. She had started as a stranger, then a driver, then an emergency contact, then family. But when the Marines asked who she was, the answer was simpler than any form could hold. She was the one who showed up. She wasn't his next of kin by blood. But blood isn't the only thing that makes a family. Sometimes, it's just showing up. The minivan hummed its old song, and the road stretched ahead. And somewhere, on a quiet afternoon in Oceanside, A folded flag sat on a mantel next to a note that read, "Thank you for showing up."